Hey guys, how are we all doing today? So Jake Haro's sentencing is tomorrow. I am recording this a day ahead because I don't want to be late on posting the video for his sentencing. Tomorrow is his sentencing for his crimes. You guys, he's being charged with count 187A Penal Code murder, and this is murder with forethought, okay? And he's being charged with count 2, 148 subdivision A Penal Code false report crime to police, which is a misdemeanor, and count 3, 273AB subdivision A Penal Code assault child under 8 great bodily injury resulting in death, which is a felony. Okay, remember they amended the charges. So, and then he's also convicted of the crimes for last year for breaking probation, and he committed the crime while he was on probation. He's also being charged with the possession of a firearm and possession of ammunition, and the penal code for that is, it says, charge convicted felon and narcotic addict own or possess firearm count 1 29800 subdivision A subdivision 1 penal code convicted felon and narcotic addict own or possess firearm, and this was done in June 27, 2024 is when he was arrested. And then charge prohibited person own / possess ammunition count 2 30305 subdivision A subdivision 1 penal code prohibited person own or possess ammunition, and this is June 27th of 2024. So he pled guilty to all of those. Okay, guys, this guy never served prison time for breaking his probation. He was supposed to serve a 6-year sentence for the crime against his child, Promise Faith. So he was supposed to serve a 6-year sentence for breaking that probation, and he never served it because they kept pushing his court date. Okay, so the month after they killed baby Emmanuel, he was supposed to go to court in September. And you know who is responsible for that? You know who did not object to that? Is Connor Rathbun. Okay? Connor Rathbun delayed Jake Haro's court hearing to September because Jake Haro's counsel had a child custody matter. Why is a child custody matter more important than putting Jake Haro to prison? Connor Rathbun did not fight for Promise Faith. Connor Rathbun gave Jake an opportunity to harm baby Emmanuel for the last time. Here you guys go. I'm going to read it to you, okay? According to transcripts reviewed by the Long Beach Post, during the most recent hearing on July 2nd, 2025, Jake appeared before a Riverside County Superior Court judge along with a lawyer. Deputy DA Connor Rathbun told the court that, quote, Mr. Haro's counsel of record is currently engaged in a child custody matter, and he's asking to come back September 2nd. I have no opposition to that. It was just weeks later that Jake and Rebecca allegedly murdered their son. You gave him the chance to hurt a child one last time. If you ask me who's at fault here, I'm gonna tell you guys. Judge Dwight Moore is at fault for sentencing Jake Haro to lenient sentencing and suspended his sentence. Sam Toloa did not object to peaceful contact, okay, for Jake Haro and Vanessa Avina being able to see Promise Faith after she was severely beaten. She had a protection order against her father, and he was still able to see her for peaceful contact, whatever that means, right? Because a baby can't speak for herself. Sam Toloa only objected one time during sentencing. Connor Rathbun allowed continuance and no objection from the DA's office to put Haro in prison for breaking probation. Probation officer failed as a mandated reporter to report Jake Haro to CPS and get the children taken away from him. He failed to report him to the court and tell the court that he was around children. The judge that approved his bail, $60,000 bail in 2024. He went to court. He was approved bail. He wasn't put in prison. Why is that? Please tell me, why is that? Why was he not put in prison? These two did not work. Okay? They were filing, Jake and Rebecca Haro were filing workers' compensation. Okay? They were, apparently Jake had a disability, and they were both filing workers' compensation. So where did he get this money from? This bail money that he posted, where did he get this money from? Must have been from the father, right? The stepfather. He owns a rebar business. Maybe he got it from him or the mother. Guys, there's two falsified polished report for Jake Haro during his Batterers program, his PHS program that he was attending. Somebody falsified it and made him look like he wasn't such a serious offender, and they minimized this. They used this to their advantage. Vincent Hughes used this to his advantage to make Jake Haro look like he's not a serious offender, to make it look like he is not dangerous. This is why they were able to keep him out of prison, because these two, whoever wrote this falsified report of him, you guys don't know what PHS counseling is. It's a court-approved provider of counseling services in several Riverside County locations, including Beaumont, Corona, and Lake Elsinore. It is specifically listed as a provider for the Riverside County Probation Department's Batterers Intervention Program. Jake Haro was going to this, okay? And whoever wrote this falsified report made it seem like Jake Haro was not a dangerous person. Vincent Hughes used this to his advantage. They minimized his crime and they minimized everything he had done and made him look like he was such a changed person. I'm going to show you guys a video from News Nation about how they wrote a polished report from the PHS counseling from News Nation.
Month-old son. Now, investigators say they did it, and they were cooperating at first. What do we know? The kid died between August 5th and August 14th. Why? They say abuse at the hands of the parents, but where's the body? Jake, the father, was already on probation for beating his 10-month-old daughter so severely that the kid is blind and nearly brain dead. How do you not go to jail for that? Instead, when it happened, he got a deal. He pleaded guilty, by the way, to a count of willful child neglect. I don't know how beating is just neglect, and was sentenced to 48 months probation, 180 days of community service. The judge said he deserved a break. According to the New York Post, the father passed a court-ordered child abuse class with flying colors. Counselors praised his parenting skills and considered him a low risk to reoffend, and now the kid is gone. I want to bring in a former prosecutor to talk about a policy and a prosecution issue. Matt Murphy, all right, did the job in California, and he's joining us from CrimeCon in Denver. Thank you for joining me, brother. It's good to see you.
Likewise, Chris.
Let's do micro, then macro. Micro is how do you do a prosecution if there is no body? Because there is a presumption to the layman that if there's no body, there's no murder.
So I've done to this evidence, and they're easier cases than a lot of people think.
Okay, so the facts aside, we go to the system. Is the system, is CPS or whatever it's called in California, is it just a uniquely broken / flawed / system? Because I got to tell you, I mean, look, in the Corey case, the guy was reported 100 times for abuse. Why does this happen?
Well, as we've talked about before, Chris, you and I, on other cases, a lot of times this is a cascade of failure. A lot of times it can be at different levels, either the DA's office, social services, social workers, things like that. In this case, based on everything I've reviewed, this lands squarely, I believe, on the feet of the court that gave him this sentence. It's important for everybody to remember that this program that the New York Post was talking about, that was after the court already gave him that massive and I believe hugely inappropriate break. The abuse that he subjected that first child to was so horrific. She's going to suffer for that for the rest of her life. And I got to tell you, I don't see any conceivable way that is not a state prison case. I know the DA of Riverside. He is a no-nonsense pro. And his comments publicly, it's very rare. And I'm a practicing lawyer in the state of California. I'm not criticizing the judiciary, but that is when you roll the dice on something like this, I really believe we have to give great deference to the safety of children. The system is supposed to work that way. And I think this one lands right at the feet of this judge.
Matt Murphy, appreciate you. Enjoy the
Read you
crime.
guys this article real quick. It's from the Daily Bulletin, and it is by Brian Rokos. If you guys don't remember who he is the one that did the jailhouse interview with Jake and Rebecca. Okay, and this is the title: Prosecution Defense Disagree on Sentence for Jake Haro in Death of 7-month-old Emmanuel. The Riverside County District Attorney's Office will seek a minimum 31-year sentence for Cabazon resident Jake Haro when he is sentenced Monday, November 3rd, for murdering his 7-month-old son, Emmanuel, while the Public Defender's Office will argue for a term of 15 years to life. Court documents filed Friday show. Haro, 32, on October 16th, pleaded guilty at the Riverside Hall of Justice to second-degree murder, assault on a child under 8 causing death, and filing a false police report. Quote, "There is nothing in the law or before this court that should lead a sentencing judge to believe that this man deserves anything but the maximum sentence allowed by law," end quote. Assistant District Attorney Brandon Smith wrote, Emmanuel remained missing on Friday. District Attorney Mike Hestrin has previously said that Emmanuel died from prolonged abuse. Second-degree murder carries a sentence of 15 years to life. The term for a child assault conviction is 25 years to life. The DA's office said that the murder and assault were part of the same act. Under California law, a defendant can be sentenced on only one charge if one act resulted in convictions on multiple charges. Typically, a judge will sentence the defendant on the count that carries the longest prison sentence, but Superior Court Judge Gary Polk is not bound by that practice. Smith proposed in his filing on Friday that Haro first be sentenced to 6 years for violating his probation. Haro had pleaded guilty to the court in 2023 to child abuse causing great bodily injury after he and his wife abused their 10-week-old daughter, Carolina, in 2018 to the point where she cannot use her arms and legs and has cerebral palsy, Smith wrote. Haro was ordered to serve 180 days in custody, and a 6-year prison term was suspended as long as Haro did not break more laws. But on the same day, Haro admitted killing Emmanuel. He pleaded guilty to being a felon in possession of ammunition. After Haro finishes that 6-year term, Smith wrote, he should begin serving a sentence of 25 years to life for assaulting Emmanuel, a 1-year sentence for a misdemeanor count of filing a false police report. Haro and wife Rebecca claimed that Emmanuel had been kidnapped. Should run at the same time, Smith wrote. Quote, Jake Haro murdered 7-month-old Emmanuel, but in reality he comes before the court having taken the lives of 2 young children, Smith wrote. If there are lower forms of evil in this world, I am not aware of them. Deputy Public Defender Ellison Lowe, in a document also filed Friday, said Haro should receive credit for admitting his guilt and doing so at an early stage of the case. Because of that, Lowe wrote, Polk should sentence him on a lighter sentence of the 2 felonies, the murder charge that carries a penalty of 15 years to life. Lowe added that Haro does not have the ability to pay fines or fees. Prior to his arrest, Mr. Haro was not working and was on disability, Lowe wrote. Rebecca Haro, 41, is also due in court on Monday. Court records show that her attorney, Jeff Moore, plans to object to the judge's order that made private a document related to a so-called Perkins operation, in which a suspect is placed in a jail cell with an inmate who, being paid by law enforcement, attempts to elicit a confession. No one has revealed which of the Haros was involved in that ruse. Rebecca Haro has pleaded not guilty to the same charges to which her husband admitted. The case has garnered national attention, with local residents building a makeshift memorial to the baby outside his home and going on impromptu, hopeful ground searches. Others, fluent in social media, have devoted hours of coverage to the case, in some instances breaking news ahead of the mainstream media, but in others creating a burden for detectives who authorities said had to devote time to investigating ultimately false claims. Allison Lowe, respectfully, you're disgusting. This guy severely beaten his child to the point that she cannot walk, she cannot talk, she can't even feed herself. That is attempted murder. I know she's doing her job as a defense attorney, but that is disgusting. 15 years to life for this is attempted murder, guys. That's attempted murder, what he did to Promise Faith. Because remember, Dr. Daly said that she wouldn't have even survived had she not been taken to the hospital. This guy deserved to have charges on top of him. Piled up charges on top of him. He should not see a light of day. He should not be around children. He should not see a light of day outside of prison. This is disgusting. Okay? He never served time for hurting. He never served time for hurting his baby. He never served time for breaking probation. He never served time for anything. This guy should never see a light of day. Ever. It's disgusting that they're trying to even propose that he gets 15 years to life. What a joke. What a joke.